The massive chamber buzzed with alien voices as hundreds of creatures from across the galaxy gathered for the monthly Galactic Council meeting. Strange beings with scales, tentacles, and crystal bodies filled the floating platforms that circled the central speaking area. Above them all, a giant holographic display showed star maps and data streams in languages that would have meant nothing to human eyes. Ambassador Zixthak slithered to the center platform, his purple skin gleaming under the artificial lights. The reptilian diplomat from the Hegemony Empire carried a datapad that made soft clicking sounds as his claws tapped across its surface. Today, he had something special to share with the council, something that would surely entertain his fellow representatives. Honored members of the council, Zixthak began, his voice carrying easily through the translation devices worn by every delegate. I bring you the latest intelligence report on a small world in the outer spiral arm, a world the primitive inhabitants call Earth. The holographic display shifted to show a blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. Clouds swirled across its surface, and two small moons orbited nearby. To the aliens watching, it looked utterly unremarkable. Just another backwater world in an unremarkable solar system. Observe their current technological level. Zixthak continued, clearly enjoying himself. The display zoomed in to show human cities with their crude buildings and primitive vehicles. Cars moved along roads like insects, while aircraft that barely managed to stay airborne crawled across the sky. A chittering laugh came from the insectoid collective representative. They still burn chemical fuels for transportation? How delightfully primitive. The crystalline delegate from Sithar Prime chimed in, its voice crackling through the translation matrix like breaking glass. Our scans show they have barely achieved orbital flight capability. Their most advanced vessels can barely escape their own gravity well. Zixthak nodded, his forked tongue flicking out in amusement. Indeed, they fight wars with projectile weapons that use chemical explosions to hurl metal fragments at their enemies. Their conflicts are over resources, territory, and abstract concepts they call religions and ideologies. More laughter filled the chamber. The peaceful races of the Galactic Council had long ago evolved past such primitive behaviors. They could barely comprehend species that still engaged in warfare for anything other than absolute survival. The humans divide themselves into separate groups called nations. Zixthak continued, clearly building to his main point. They maintain separate military forces, separate governments, and spend enormous resources preparing to fight each other instead of working together for common goals. On the display, images showed human soldiers in camouflage uniforms carrying rifles and riding in armored vehicles. To the watching aliens, the weapons looked laughably crude, hardly more advanced than clubs and spears when compared to their own energy-based technologies. What the aliens could not see, hidden beneath a mountain in Colorado, Captain Jake Morrison was running final tests on a prototype plasma rifle that hummed with barely contained energy. The weapon in his hands would have surprised the watching delegates, but human military secrecy had kept such developments completely hidden from alien observation. Dr. Lisa Hayes monitored the weapon's performance from her underground laboratory, surrounded by equipment that represented 3 years of intensive research into alien technology. When the first alien probe had been quietly intercepted by human forces, she had been part of the secret team tasked with understanding its advanced systems. Power output is stable at 47% of maximum, she reported to Jake. The containment field is holding perfectly. We're ready for field trials. Jake nodded and carefully placed the weapon in its storage case. Outside this facility, the world continued as normal, unaware that humanity had been preparing for contact with alien civilizations for years. The world's governments had managed to keep the greatest secret in human history while quietly building the most advanced military force their planet had ever seen. Back in the council chambers, Admiral Kretok of the Hegemony Navy was explaining his species' standard procedures for dealing with primitive worlds. The massive creature's tentacles waved dismissively as he spoke. When we encounter such backward civilizations, the process is quite simple, he explained to the assembled delegates. We establish orbital dominance with a small task force, usually no more than 50 vessels. The primitive inhabitants typically surrender immediately when they see our technology. The Zarif Union representative leaned forward with interest. And if they resist? Resistance is rare and easily overcome, Kretok replied with confidence. A few demonstration strikes on military installations usually convince them to cooperate. After that, we process the population for labor assignments and begin resource extraction operations. None of the council members seemed particularly concerned about this approach. To them, it was simply the natural order of things. Advanced civilizations had the right to guide and utilize less developed ones. It was for the greater good of galactic civilization. The humans would actually make excellent workers, Zixthak added helpfully. They're physically robust, reproduce quickly, and show remarkable adaptability to different environments. Our projections suggest they could provide several billion productive laborers within a generation. What none of them knew was that Lieutenant Commander Amy Stone was listening to every word from a hidden monitoring station built into an asteroid at the edge of their solar system. The human intelligence officer had been tracking Galactic Council communications for 8 months, recording their plans and transmitting everything back to Earth's military command. Amy watched the alien delegates, laugh and joke about humanity's fate with growing anger, but her training kept her focused on her mission. Every detail of their conversation was being recorded and analyzed by teams of specialists back home. The aliens' arrogance was giving humanity exactly the intelligence they needed to prepare for what was coming. The council meeting continued for another hour, with various species sharing similar reports about other primitive worlds they had encountered. To them, Earth was just another entry in a long list of civilizations to be absorbed into their galactic community, whether willingly or by force. As the meeting ended and the delegates began to disperse, Zixthak filed his final report recommending Earth for immediate harvest operations. The bureaucratic wheels of galactic civilization began to turn, setting in motion events that would change everything. The galaxy's joke was about to become its biggest surprise. 6 months after the Galactic Council meeting, space around Earth's solar system began to ripple and bend. Massive shapes emerged from hyperspace like predators rising from deep water. The hegemony harvest fleet had arrived, 50 enormous warships, that blotted out stars as they moved into formation. Admiral Kretok stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dominant Claw, watching the small blue planet grow larger on his main display. His tentacles moved across control surfaces with practiced ease as he reviewed the final invasion plans that had been months in the making. All vessels report ready status, his communications officer announced. Fleet formation is optimal for planetary assault. Kretok nodded with satisfaction. The operation would be simple and quick. His ships carried enough firepower to turn Earth's surface into molten glass if necessary, but he expected the humans to surrender long before such extreme measures became required. Begin preliminary scans, he ordered. I want a complete tactical assessment of their defensive capabilities. The scanner results appeared exactly as expected. A few primitive space stations orbited the planet, along with thousands of simple satellites that barely qualified as technology. The humans had no visible warships, no orbital defense platforms, and certainly no weapons that could threaten his mighty fleet. What Admiral Kretok could not detect were the thousands of human vessels floating silent and invisible throughout the asteroid belt. Commander Neil Roberts had spent 2 years perfecting the stealth coating that covered every human ship, using alien technology reverse-engineered from captured probes and modified with human innovations. Captain Kate Sullivan checked her instruments, aboard the stealth destroyer Hidden Blade. Around her, 200 similar vessels waited in perfect silence, their crews trained to operate without making the slightest energy signature that might give away their position. Enemy fleet is maintaining standard approach vector, her sensor officer reported quietly. They have no idea we're here. Kate smiled grimly. The aliens were about to learn why humans had dominated their own planet for so long. It was not because they were the strongest or the fastest creatures on Earth. It was because they were the smartest hunters, the most patient predators, and the most creative killers their world had ever produced. On Earth's surface, the news networks were broadcasting images of the alien fleet with a mixture of terror and wonder. Reporters spoke in hushed voices about humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life, while governments around the world called for calm and unity in the face of the unknown. President Helen Carter stood before cameras in the White House briefing room, delivering a carefully prepared speech to the American people and the world. "We do not yet know the intentions of our visitors from space," she said with practiced calm, "but we are prepared for any possibility." What the watching public did not know was that major cities around the world had been quietly evacuated over the past week. Underground bunkers that had been secretly constructed over the past 3 years now held millions of civilians, while advanced holographic projectors maintained the illusion of normal life on the surface. Dr. Peter Vaughn monitored the alien fleet from a command center buried deep beneath Colorado Springs. The facility had been built using alien construction techniques, its walls lined with materials that could withstand direct nuclear attack. Around him, hundreds of technicians tracked every movement of the approaching enemy ships. "Fleet deployment is proceeding as predicted," he reported to the assembled military commanders. "They're using standard hegemony attack formation based on our analysis of their previous operations. Major Diana Ford coordinated with strike teams positioned throughout the solar system. Human forces had been preparing for this moment for 3 years, ever since the first alien probe had been captured. Every possible scenario had been planned for, every contingency prepared for. The aliens sent their standard communication to Earth on all frequencies. The message was simple and direct: surrender immediately or face complete destruction. Similar ultimatums had been sent to dozens of worlds across the galaxy, and the results were always the same. Primitive civilizations quickly realized they had no choice but to submit. The response came from Admiral Jack Patterson, transmitted from the secret lunar command facility that the aliens had not detected. His voice was calm and professional as he spoke for all humanity. "This is Earth Defense Command responding to the hegemony fleet," Patterson said. "We have received your surrender demand and respectfully decline. You have entered human space without permission. We require your immediate departure from our solar system." Laughter echoed through the bridges of 50 alien warships. The idea that these primitive creatures would dare to make demands of the mighty hegemony fleet struck the alien commanders as absurdly amusing. "Prepare demonstration strike," Admiral Kretok ordered. "Target their largest city. A single blast should convince them to reconsider their position." But as his weapons officer began targeting procedures, warning signals suddenly filled the alien bridge. Energy signatures were appearing throughout the asteroid belt, massive power readings that should not have existed in this primitive solar system. "Admiral," his scanner officer reported with growing alarm, "we're detecting multiple unknown contacts. Energy signatures are consistent with military vessels, but that's impossible based on our intelligence reports." Kretok's tentacles curled with confusion and the first hints of concern. "Show me." The main display shifted to show the asteroid belt, now alive with thousands of contacts that had appeared from nowhere. Each signature indicated a vessel roughly the size of a hegemony cruiser, armed with weapons that were generating power levels far beyond anything these primitive humans should have been able to produce. "How is this possible?" Kretok demanded. "Our intelligence indicated projectile weapons only." Captain Kate Sullivan's voice crackled across the human battle network from her position in the asteroid belt. "All units, this is Strike Command. Enemy fleet is in optimal position. Prepare to engage on my mark." Around her, 2,000 human warships powered up their weapon systems simultaneously. Plasma cannons that had been developed from captured alien technology hummed with deadly energy. Railguns capable of firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed locked onto targets. Missile tubes loaded with gravitational pulse warheads stood ready. The trap was set, and the prey had walked directly into it. Admiral Kretok stared at his displays in growing horror as he realized that everything the hegemony knew about humans was completely wrong. These were not the primitive creatures his intelligence reports had described. Somehow, these supposedly backward beings had built a fleet that outnumbered his own 4-to-1. "All vessels, prepare for combat," he ordered, his voice betraying his shock. "We may have underestimated these humans. The galaxy's joke was about to reveal its punchline, and the hegemony fleet was about to become the laughingstock instead. The space around Earth exploded into violence as 2,000 human warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. What had appeared to be empty space suddenly swarmed with sleek vessels bristling with weapons that should not have existed. Captain Ben Torres led the first wave of fighters as they streaked toward the alien fleet like a swarm of angry wasps. His squadron had trained for this moment for 2 years, practicing attack runs against holographic projections of hegemony vessels until every pilot could fly the patterns in their sleep. "Strike Alpha. Weapons hot," Ben announced over the tactical network. "Engage enemy left flank. Remember your targeting priorities." The human fighters were small and fast, built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy firepower. But each one carried plasma cannons reverse-engineered from alien technology and improved with human innovations. The weapons fired bursts of superheated gas that could punch through alien armor like bullets through paper. Admiral Kretok watched in horror as his shields flared under weapons fire that his intelligence report said was impossible. The humans were using energy weapons that matched or exceeded hegemony technology, fired from ships that moved with precision his own pilots could not match. "Impossible," he roared at his tactical officer. "Our intelligence indicated chemical, projectile weapons only. Where did they get plasma technology?" What the Admiral did not understand was humanity's greatest strength. When Dr. Lisa Hayes had first examined captured alien technology 3 years ago, she had not simply copied what she found. Human scientists had taken alien concepts and pushed them far beyond what their original creators had imagined. The alien plasma weapons were designed for efficiency and reliability. The human versions were designed to kill as effectively as possible. Where alien weapons fired steady beams meant to disable enemy systems, human weapons delivered devastating pulses designed to punch through armor and destroy everything behind. Commander Grace Miller brought her bomber squadron up from beneath the alien formation, her massive vessels invisible against the black of space until they opened fire. The gravitational pulse bombs they carried were based on alien mining equipment, but humans had found 12 different ways to weaponize the technology. "Bomber Wing Beta, target the command ships," Grace ordered. "Let's cut the head off this snake." The gravitational weapons created localized distortions in spacetime that tore through alien hull plating like it was made of tissue paper. Hegemony shields were designed to stop energy beams and deflect solid projectiles, but they were useless against weapons that twisted space itself. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Murphy watched with satisfaction as his bombs ripped holes in 3 alien cruisers simultaneously. The enemy vessels began venting atmosphere and debris as their structural integrity failed under the gravitational stress. "Direct hits on targets 7, 12, and 15, his weapons officer reported. "Enemy vessels are showing massive structural damage." The hegemony fleet began to break formation as panic spread through their ranks. These were not the primitive creatures they had expected to harvest. Every human weapon seemed designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in alien defenses. Captain Lisa Chen's heavy cruiser squadron emerged from behind Earth's moon, their massive railguns already charged and ready. The kinetic weapons fired. Chunks of tungsten accelerated to nearly 10% of light speed, delivering more energy than nuclear warheads with pinpoint accuracy. The projectiles moved too fast for alien point defense systems to track, striking hegemony vessels with devastating effect. Where plasma weapons burned through armor, the railgun projectiles simply punched straight through enemy ships from one side to the other. "Target their engines," Lisa ordered her gunners. "Let's make sure none of them can run away to tell stories." Admiral Kretok's flagship shuddered as a railgun projectile tore through his port engine section. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the ship as damage control teams scrambled to contain the destruction. "Admiral, we're taking heavy casualties," his tactical officer reported. 17 vessels destroyed, 23 more showing critical damage. The humans are using weapons we've never encountered before. Major Ryan Clark's voice crackled across the human battle network as his destroyer squadron moved to intercept fleeing alien vessels. "Command, this is Strike Group Delta. Enemy flagship is attempting to withdraw. Request permission to pursue." The permission came immediately from Admiral Patterson on the Lunar Command Station. "Permission granted. All units, converge on the enemy flagship. Let's make sure their admiral gets a close look at human hospitality. The dominant claw found itself surrounded by human warships that danced around its massive bulk like fighters around a lumbering giant. Plasma fire stripped away its shields while railgun projectiles punched holes in its armor. Gravitational bombs twisted its hull plating into impossible shapes. Kretok frantically transmitted surrender signals on all frequencies, but the human response was swift and merciless. They had studied hegemony tactics for 3 years and knew exactly how these aliens treated conquered civilizations. "This is Admiral Patterson of Earth Defense Command," came the reply. "Your surrender is noted but not accepted. You came here to harvest our people and strip our world. Now you get to experience what happens when the prey fights back." The alien admiral tried desperately to contact the Galactic Council, sending distress signals that painted the humans as savage aggressors who had attacked without provocation. The response he received was not what he expected. "Admiral Kretok, this is Council Control," came the official reply. "Earth has been reclassified as a restricted world. All hegemony vessels are ordered to withdraw from the system immediately. Any further hostile action will result in formal sanctions." Kretok stared at the message in disbelief. The Council was abandoning him, leaving his fleet to face these impossibly advanced humans alone. In the space of 1 hour, everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had been turned upside down. The battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and the universe would never be the same. The footage spread across the galaxy faster than the surviving hegemony ships could limp home. Every major news network in Council space played the same impossible scenes over and over again. Human fighters dancing between massive alien warships, systematically tearing them apart with weapons that should not have existed. In the Galactic Council chambers, the same delegates who had laughed about Earth's primitive nature now sat in stunned silence. The holographic displays showed burning hegemony vessels drifting through space while small human ships moved between them like sharks among wounded prey. The crystalline delegate from Sithar Prime flickered with nervous energy patterns that translated as deep concern. "How is this possible? Our intelligence reports indicated they barely achieved orbital flight capability just months ago." Ambassador Zixthak slumped in his chair, his purple skin pale with shock. The reptilian diplomat who had entertained the Council with jokes about human primitiveness now faced the complete destruction of everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. "The humans destroyed 47 hegemony vessels," he reported in a voice barely above a whisper. "Only 3 ships escaped, and those were badly damaged. Admiral Kretok's flagship was captured intact with most of its crew alive." The insectoid collective representative clicked its mandibles together in what passed for nervous laughter among its species. Captured? The mighty hegemony fleet was captured by chemical weapon primitives? What none of them understood was that humanity had been watching and learning for 3 years. Every alien probe that entered Earth's solar system had been quietly intercepted and studied. Every piece of technology had been reverse engineered and improved upon by human scientists who approached problems differently than any other species in the galaxy. On Earth, Ambassador Sarah Johnson prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. The veteran negotiator had spent her career dealing with difficult international situations, but nothing had prepared her for representing humanity to an entire galaxy of alien civilizations. "Remember," President Carter told her during the final briefing, "we're not asking for permission to exist. We're informing them that we do exist, and we expect to be treated with respect." Sarah nodded as she reviewed the presentation materials one final time. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Humanity had progressed from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 5 years, a technological leap that had taken other species thousands of years to accomplish. Captain Mike Stevens, the military liaison assigned to the diplomatic mission, checked his dress uniform one final time. The former fighter pilot had been chosen specifically because his calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the aggressive reputation humanity had just earned in the galaxy. "The transport is ready, Ambassador," he reported. We'll be at the Council station in 6 hours. The journey to the Galactic Council headquarters gave Sarah time to review what humanity had learned about alien psychology. Most Council species were peaceful by nature, having evolved past aggressive tendencies millions of years ago. They struggled to understand how humans could be both diplomatically reasonable and militarily devastating. Dr. Rachel Wong waited in the Earth delegation's prepared chambers, surrounded by displays showing humanity's scientific achievements. Quantum computers that operated at temperatures near absolute zero, medical scanners that could detect and repair genetic damage at the cellular level, zero-point energy generators that produced power from the vacuum of space itself. What she did not mention in her presentations was how quickly humans had achieved these breakthroughs. Most of the technology had been developed by studying alien equipment and pushing it far beyond its original design parameters. Human scientists had a talent for taking existing concepts and finding new applications that their creators had never imagined. The council session began with formal presentations from each major species. The Zarif Union spoke about trade concerns. The methane breathers discussed terraforming projects. The Silicon-based collective shared updates on their deep space exploration missions. Then Sarah Johnson took the podium, representing a species that had been completely unknown to most council members just weeks earlier. Honored delegates, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I am Ambassador Sarah Johnson of the United Earth Government. We formally request membership in the Galactic Council and recognition as a sovereign interstellar civilization. The silence that followed was profound. Hundreds of alien beings stared at the human diplomat, who stood calmly before them, representing a world that had gone from galactic joke to military powerhouse in the span of a single battle. The Scythar Prime Delegate was the first to respond. Your species progressed from chemical propulsion to hyperspace travel in less than one standard galactic cycle. This rate of advancement is unprecedented in council records. Sarah smiled politely. Humanity has always been quick to adapt when circumstances require it. We tend to be most innovative when facing significant challenges. Colonel Jessica Turner, Earth's new Director of Alien Relations, addressed the concerns about human military capabilities. The hegemony fleet came to our world with the stated intention of harvesting our population and stripping our planet of resources. We defended ourselves using the minimum force necessary to ensure our survival. The Zarif Union representative raised a tentacle in what passed for a questioning gesture among its species. Your military response was extraordinarily effective. Many council members are concerned about human aggressive tendencies. We rescued over 300 survivors from damaged hegemony vessels, Jessica replied calmly. We provided medical treatment to wounded aliens and returned prisoners of war unharmed. We judge species by their actions, not by their appearance or origin. Behind the scenes, council members struggled to understand how they had so completely misjudged the humans. Their peaceful civilizations had grown comfortable over millions of years of gradual progress. They had forgotten that evolution could produce species that thrived under pressure, that turned obstacles into opportunities. The vote on human membership was closer than expected, but the result was inevitable. Earth had demonstrated both the capability to contribute to galactic civilization and the power to defend itself against aggression. The Council had no choice but to acknowledge what humanity had become. As Sarah Johnson signed the membership documents, she knew that everything had changed. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating humanity. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy had learned to take humanity very seriously. What had started as a cosmic joke had become the most respected military force in Council space. Human defensive technologies were being studied and adapted by dozens of alien civilizations who suddenly realized they needed better ways to protect themselves. Admiral Patricia Hill stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Earth vessel Unity, watching as mixed crews of humans and aliens worked together. At control stations throughout the command center, the ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining human innovation with alien manufacturing techniques that had taken centuries to perfect. Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler station, her communications officer reported. Lieutenant Bobby Chen had been one of the first humans to learn the complex alien communication protocols that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy. Patricia studied the tactical display as new information appeared. The Outer Rim mining station was under attack by unknown vessels that had emerged from the dark space between galaxies. The attackers were using weapons and tactics that did not match any known Council species. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "All vessels prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We have a code red situation at Kepler Station." The joint defense fleet that followed her into hyperspace would have been impossible to imagine just 2 years earlier. Human destroyers flew alongside Scythar crystal ships and Zareth biovessels, their crews trained in combined tactics that merged the best ideas from a dozen different military traditions. Commander Alex Rodriguez received the emergency deployment orders while conducting training exercises near Jupiter. His squadron of mixed human and alien pilots had been practicing the new combat doctrines that were revolutionizing space warfare throughout the galaxy. "All units, this is Strike Command," Alex announced over the tactical network. "We have hostile contact at Kepler Station. Enemy forces unknown, presumed dangerous. Standard first contact protocols are in effect." The pilots under his command represented 6 different species, but they all flew using human tactical manuals that had become required reading in every Council military academy. The aggressive, adaptive strategies that humans employed naturally were being taught to alien officers who had never needed to think like predators before. When the defense fleet arrived at Kepler Station, they found something that chilled experienced military officers from multiple worlds. The attacking ships were sleek black vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with mechanical precision that suggested artificial intelligence rather than biological crews. "Admiral, we're detecting no life signs from the hostile vessels," reported Commander Betty Walsh from her sensor station. "Energy signatures suggest advanced synthetic construction. These appear to be fully automated warships." Patricia frowned as she studied the tactical display. The galaxy had encountered rogue artificial intelligences before, but nothing on this scale. The attacking fleet numbered in the hundreds, each vessel armed with weapons that were systematically dismantling the station's defenses. "All vessels, engage at maximum range," she ordered. "Use formation Delta 7. Do not allow them to close distance." The battle that followed became a textbook example of human tactical innovation applied to galactic warfare. While alien military doctrine emphasized avoiding casualties and minimizing destruction, human strategies focused on winning quickly and decisively. Captain Jennifer Lewis commanded a squadron of electronic warfare vessels that had been developed specifically to counter synthetic enemies. Her ships carried computer viruses and electromagnetic pulse weapons that could disable artificial intelligences from long range. "Target their command and control systems," she ordered her crew. "Let's see how well they fight when they can't coordinate their attacks." The human cyber warfare techniques proved devastatingly effective against the synthetic fleet. Within minutes, enemy vessels began breaking formation as their networked systems failed under assault from human-designed computer viruses that had been developed through years of competitive gaming and internet security research. Dr. Kevin Park monitored the battle from his medical station aboard the Unity, but his attention was focused on the alien crew members who were witnessing human military doctrine in action for the first time. The peaceful species that made up most of the Council had never seen warfare conducted with such systematic efficiency. "The humans fight like they're playing a game," observed the Sithar medical officer working beside him. "They seem to enjoy the challenge of finding new ways to defeat their enemies." Kevin nodded thoughtfully. "Human military strategy evolved from hunting and competitive sports. We've always treated conflict as a puzzle to be solved, rather than a tragedy to be endured." The synthetic fleet was destroyed within 3 hours, but the implications of the battle would reshape galactic politics for decades to come. The mysterious attackers had demonstrated that threats existed beyond the borders of known space, dangers that the peaceful Council races were not equipped to handle alone. In the aftermath of the victory, Admiral Hill found herself appointed as the new director of Galactic Defense, a position that had not existed before humans joined the Council. The galaxy's former joke had become its primary protector against unknown threats from the dark spaces between stars. Captain Lisa Martinez established the first joint training academy on a neutral world near the galactic core, where officers from dozens of species learned human tactical doctrine and leadership principles. The curriculum included subjects that had never been taught to alien military personnel: aggressive maneuvering, psychological warfare, and the art of winning battles through superior strategy rather than superior technology. The motto displayed prominently in every human military facility throughout Council space read simply, "Humanity, armed and smiling." It served as both a promise to allies and a warning to potential enemies. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about assumptions and first impressions. Earth was no longer the punchline to a cosmic joke. It had become the galaxy's best hope for survival in an increasingly dangerous universe. And everyone knew that when humans smiled while holding weapons, it meant they were perfectly confident about the outcome of any fight. The former primitives had arrived in galactic civilization, and they were here to stay.